What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is my 2023 Alfa Romeo Giulia, and if you've been watching the channel for any period of time, you'll know that I once owned a 2017 Giulia in this very same color. So I thought, what better video to make than comparing the two models and seeing what you get for each brand. As you know, Alfa did a facelift of these cars in 2020, so a lot of things have changed since that original 2017 model has come out. And I thought, let's put these two cars to the test, my old 2017 and the new 2023, and see if the new 2023 with its extra price hikes and all the other add-ons that you get is really worth the money, or if you should just stick with the old 2017 and save some cash. Without further ado, let's get right into today's video. All right, so we're gonna start first category with the interior features and the overall interior, as well as the tech itself that you get in these cars. So as you can see, I mean, the Giulia is regarded as a very beautiful place to be inside and out, and its design is very much timeless and you know, classy. We're gonna start here in my 2023 model. So we're gonna just kind of note some of the things that have changed between the two models. Now, the steering wheel is probably the biggest thing that you'll notice. This is definitely a nicer, bolstered, and better wrapped and better quality leather steering wheel, as well as you get kind of the redesign with the buttons, and I think this just looks a whole heck of a lot better. And compared to my 2017, we also have these beautiful column-mounted aluminum paddle shifters. And you know, all the gauges and stuff are the same unless you go to the 2024 models. You get a full digital cluster, so tech-wise, I guess I would have to give it to that one. But you know, the biggest things that's going to change here are this kind of center console area and the infotainment system. Now, the 2023 kind of reworked this whole center console area. You get this nicer leather wrap shifter. The buttons are more weighted. You get a kind of wireless charging port here. And everything just looks a little nicer and there's a little less plastic. And then on your infotainment screen, not only is the screen itself a little bit larger, but it also features touchscreen here. And you know, it's definitely a lot more responsive and a lot nicer to live with than the original 2017s was, which was only controlled via the rotary dial down here. So while the design and everything kind of stayed the same, the tech and the kind of features that you get on the 2023 up models, or the 2020 plus models, excuse me, is when the facelift came out. So you get all of these nicer features, and the kind of fit and finish of the whole car just feels a lot better. There's a lot less you know, kind of creaks and rattles I've noticed in this interior than in the 2017. So I'm gonna have to give this kind of category to the 2023 model. I think it is worth it. I mean, it just is just such a nicer place to be than the 2017. And even though that is really a nice interior and you could option those out to be pretty good, if we're comparing apples to oranges with my specific car, you know, my specific car did not have these sport seats. It had the more basic seats. I didn't have the sunroof in my original one. I didn't have the heated seats or the heated steering wheel. I didn't have the paddles. And you know, with all of that plus the other upgrades that Alfa's done, like, you know, reworking the center console and all that, this just feels like a way more premium place to be sitting. And the tech and everything is so much easier. You know, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay is a lot better on this thing than it was on my 2017. So I'm gonna have to give this category to the 2023 Giulia. All right, so let's discuss the way that these two cars drive, because surprisingly, there is a little bit of a difference. Right now, I am driving my 2023 Giulia, but I want to discuss kind of how these things are like to drive and, you know, what changes Alfa has made in terms of the driving experience with these cars. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, you hop into either one of these cars and you are going to be, you know, excited, floored by the way this thing drives, and you're going to come out with a smile on your face after you are done. That being said, there are a few subtle differences I've noticed over my kind of course of driving and owning these cars. Now, let's talk first about the 2017 model. That 2017 car, obviously I didn't have any of the kind of features that this one does or any of that, no sunroof, so maybe the car was a little bit lighter, but there was something about it that just felt a little more raw than this car does. That car just felt a little more spunky, a little more characterful. I don't know how to describe it entirely, but that car just had a little bit more of a raw edge. And I think what has happened is that this 2023 version has fallen victim to the kind of emission standards of the, more modern day, where, these particulate filters and all these kind of emissions ratings have kind of dialed down and dumbed down the experience a little bit of these cars. That 2017 just had a little bit more of a raw edge, and especially with the exhaust, even though I put the same exhaust on both of these cars, that one just sounded a little more kind of crackly. Again, raw, I think is the best word to describe it. It just had a little more of this kind of edge to it, and a little more, crackle and rasp and just sheer volume in the cabin. And that's not to say that this 2023 version drives bad, because this thing does not drive bad at all, and it still feels exactly the same. And the differences that I'm describing, you would really only be able to tell if you hopped out of the 2017 one and straight into this 2023 one. Otherwise, the cars feel practically identical. But let's talk about what has changed in the 2023 model that makes it feel a little more refined and polished. Well, first thing is Alfa has double glazed the windows and the sunroof and all of that. So the cabin and everything just feels a little quieter and a little more insulated. So you get this more kind of luxurious feeling. And I think Alfa has also tweaked the suspension a little bit, because you notice that this ride, while still just as taut and compliant, and the handling is still just as good as in the other car, and the steering just as sharp, but you notice that the ride is just slightly more compliant. The suspension soaks up the bumps just a little bit better, and it feels a little smoother, kind of gliding over the road, compared to my 2017, which was just a little bit on the firmer edge. Now, both of the cars are handling the exact same way. I'm not going to say that one inherently handles better than the other, or that you notice a difference. No, both of these cars handle phenomenally, and you can just place the car exactly where you want to go. It's incredible. And this car definitely still has the same edge. Don't think anything I'm saying means that this car has lost any of the kind of edge or the spunk or the ferociousness, because it hasn't. If I put this thing into dynamic mode and I punch it, it's still just as fast, just as ferocious and playful as the other car. But you just notice that this thing, as a daily driver, is just a little bit more sorted, and it feels a little bit more competent on the road. The other one just had that kind of raw feeling and all that, and it was just a little louder and a little more kind of like racy, I guess is the right word to describe it. But this thing, I mean, it's just as fun. And in this particular car, I have the kind of paddle shifters, and the steering wheel feels a little better, so the engagement actually is slightly better, I think, in this car, even though it might not have quite the same raw edge that it does. And you can't really replace that feeling. It feels fantastic to kind of roll your own gears. But I will say the exhaust sound, since the cabin is more insulated, there's less wind noise and all that, but there's also less exhaust noise in the cabin. So again, something to consider. But I think both of these cars drive absolutely fantastically, and you're not really missing anything. Especially when it can still giddy up and boogie just like that. So no matter what happens, what Giulia you get into, you're gonna love the way it drives, and it's gonna put a smile on your face, and you're gonna come out happy no matter what happens and what Giulia you get into. Alrighty, next we move to the outside to talk about the exterior styling. So you might be saying, well, this looks pretty much the same as your old Giulia did. And for the most part, you're right. There's not much that has changed on this car, because let's face it, the exterior of this thing is absolutely stunning, and Alfa nailed it right out of the park with the 2017 model. But for those keen-eyed viewers, there are a few different things about this 2023 model that my 2017 did not have. So I'm going to be kind of showing you guys some pictures on the side of the screen as well, comparing the two. So my 2017 model was, again, red like this, but it had all of the kind of silver accents. And again, both of these cars are the base model version. So both of these are what they call the Sprint, or the kind of most entry-level model that you can get for the Giulia. So you're not going to get really all of the bells and whistles on either model. Let's get on to the things that have changed. In 2017, Alfa came out with three different kind of model ranges for the Giulia. You had the base model, the TI Sport, and then obviously the range topper was the Quadrifoglio. Now, the base model had a different front bumper. The base model had, as you can see here, I'm going to post on the screen, a kind of more streamlined, smaller intakes, kind of a flatter design for the section here of the bumper. And this one is a little more quadrifoglio-esque. So post 2020, when they did the facelift for these cars, now all of the Giulias had the kind of more aggressive, sportier front bumper that the TI Sports or whatever got. And this was standard even for the most basic Sprint models. So as you can see here, I do think that this bumper just looks that much better. Obviously both are fantastic and both cars look good, but this just looks that much better. And if you do go for the 2023 Competizione model or the 2024 and up models, you're gonna get the new kind of reworked headlights, which most people think look even better on this car, as well as the kind of different taillights. And I'll pop a picture of what that looks like on the screen as well. As far as the rims and stuff go, you can get the same rim options. Now, both of my Sprint models came with the same rims. I painted the 2017 rims black, and I just ended up changing these rims on my 2023. So that's all standard fare. The only other difference on the side here was that this 2023 model gets the kind of matte black window surround finishes, and my base model of my 2017 had the kind of chrome. And speaking of chrome, one more thing I forgot on the front is my 2017 model had this V Scudetto here in a silver chrome-like finish as well. And now my 2023 model, it comes standard in this kind of gloss black. Again, all these things you could have optioned in the 2017 model if you paid for a higher price. But again, we're comparing apples to apples here with the base models. So I'm going to tell you exactly where you're going to get if you're going to get a base model in 2017 and a base model in 2023. As far as the rear end's concerned, this is pretty much identical, except my Sprint was optioned with the kind of black exhaust tips, whereas the 2017 one I had silver or chrome. And I believe that is an option. I don't believe that's standard, so we're not going to count that. But besides that, I mean, guys, these cars are pretty much the same. This 2023, since it does have the sunroof, it is going to be blacked out on the roof. As far as looks goes, again, this one just looks that much smarter, that much better. But again, both were fantastic looking cars. And I think if you wanted to save the extra cash, the 2017 is still just as beautiful, and you're not really missing anything too much. All right, so let's move on to the reliability of these two cars. Now, the 2017 model I bought had 17,000 miles when I bought it and about 37 when I sold it. And I didn't have any problems with that car. Now, there are a few things that these cars are known to kind of experience and that can be a little bit troublesome when owning these things. They tend to kind of run short on battery, and if their battery drains, it tends to kind of throw lights on the dash and make this a whole electronical mess. But it's a simple fix with something like replacing the battery or topping up its charge. So these cars do have their little faults and everything, and my 2017 did experience that. There was never anything to do with the actual engine or the car or the mechanics itself. It was normally just a battery thing, and once I replaced the battery, everything was fine. So I mean, these cars, the ZF 8-speed transmission, very bulletproof, and the engine has been known to be reliable. Once you get these things past 100,000 miles, then maybe you'd have to start worrying, but as long as you take care of them, they'll do just fine. And my 2017, I have to admit, it was really good to me. And obviously this one, my 2023, since it is pretty new, this car only has about 6,500 miles on it. 2 years old. I've only done a oil change to it, so I haven't really had to do too much to keep this thing going. But this one, I have to say, the whole fit and finish and the build on this car definitely feels a lot more high quality than the 2017s. And I know that Alfa has kind of worked to curb some of the common issues that these cars did have. Like the 2017s, I know were known to have kind of radiator hose issues where they would crack, bleeder screws. The wastegate arm was sometimes fail. So I think Alfa in these newer vehicles has done their best to kind of upgrade all of that stuff and make sure that these cars run longer, and you can definitely feel that. So I definitely am gonna have to give the reliability category to the 2023, even though both cars to me have been super reliable so far. I can't really dog out the 2017, but I do have to say, I would assume that the newer the car you get with these things, the better you're gonna be in the long run. All right, in our last category, we're gonna talk about how much these things cost to buy and own and what the maintenance is like on these things. Now, I know we kind of were just touching on that in the reliability category, but I wanna talk kind of numbers wise and see, you know, obviously these newer cars are gonna have a little bit more of an upfront price that you have to pay to get these things since they're, you know, newer and they have all these newer features. So let's talk first about my 2017. I paid just under $25,000 for that car with 17,000 miles on it as a 2017 in, I think, the year 2020. Now, that car was in great condition when I bought it, and obviously I drove it for about, you know, 20,000 miles and sold it. And when I sold it, I only made about 12 grand back on it. So these cars unfortunately do take a little bit of a kind of depreciation hit when you own them, but if you're buying used and you get a good deal, then these things can prove to be pretty reasonable. Now, that car I had to do pretty much nothing to besides standard maintenance. Now, for ownership and maintenance, I mean, besides having to fill gas, since I'm pretty heavy-footed, filling gas, you know, pretty often, I really didn't have to do much besides get the oil changed, and the brakes and rotors after a while needed to be replaced. So that's pretty much all I did to own and maintain this thing. I mean, you do pay a little bit of a premium and you take a little bit of a hit on the older cars, especially once you know, if you drive these things a lot, but it really wasn't all that bad. I mean, I drove that car hard and I, you know, spent a lot of time, did a lot of things in that car, and all I had to do really was change the oil and fill up the gas tank. And I suggest that you don't go to dealers to get oil changes on these cars because they do charge a very high premium. But if you have a good mechanic or you know how to do it yourself, it's relatively easy and relatively inexpensive to keep this thing running for a long time. And with this 2023 Giulia, I mean, I've owned it for almost a year now, so I haven't had as much time with it as my 2017, but you know, I've changed the oil once on this thing, you know, spent under 200 bucks, and this thing has given me absolutely zero problems. And I've had, you know, to not spend another dime on it. I paid about 28 and change for this particular car. And the nice thing about this one is it is holding its value. So I bought this with about, you know, 2,500 miles. And yes, this thing only has about 6,500 miles on it now, but I could still sell this thing and get exactly what I paid back for it. So that's a really nice thing. And again, this thing, I've literally only changed the oil on it once, and I've spent no other money on maintenance or any, you know, repairs or anything like that. So I mean, these cars are really not any more expensive than your comparable BMW, Audi, Porsche to own. And I think people get a little bit scared about the reliability and all of that, but I have to say, these things are they're great cars, and as long as you take care of them, they're not going to be that expensive to own and maintain. And if you don't drive as heavy-footed as I do, then you're going to be just fine with the gas prices too. So I mean, guys, I really think that both of these cars are going to be great. Now, this obviously is a little bit more of an upfront cost, but I think in the long run, this will probably keep going for longer, especially if you buy one a little bit lower mileage. This thing will keep you going for an even longer time. So I think it might be worth the extra, you know, maybe 10 grand to get one of the newer models with lesser miles on it, because these things, it offers a lot. It offers a lot, these newer models. But yeah, guys, so I think that's going to be it for today's video. I know this was a little bit kind of inconclusive as to what really is better. I have to say, on the whole, the 2023 is just the better car. It looks a little better. It's a little bit more polished and refined, I think, and Alfa kind of upped the quality on these cars. And it's just a little bit more special, this car. Now, maybe you lose a little bit of the raw edge in the driving, but overall, I mean, it's hard to compare and beat this thing, especially when you pull up, you know, to a car meet or something like that. There's nobody else that has an Alfa. I mean, this thing just looks great. It sounds great. I mean, it's gonna drive great. It's always gonna put a smile on your face. So you really can't go wrong no matter which model year you buy. But I think if you have the extra cash, definitely go for one of these newer ones. The features and all the stuff you're gonna get with it is totally worth it to me. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think that the extra cash is worth it for this new model, or would you just save your money and trick out one of the older 2017 models? I'd love to hear from you guys, and let me know. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I thank you all so much for watching. I love each and every one of you, and I love your support. And I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.